Evening, folks. It's your man Donald King. The goodness and joy I bring. Nah, that didn't work. Hopefully I bring goodness and joy to your life. I try. How y'all doing tonight? You good? Yeah, man. Last podcast was kind of intense there, man. I mean, things are only going to get more intense moving forward, but I mean, it is what it is. You know? I know a lot of you are in your feelings over me and the things that I'm saying right now. And you should be. Like, here's the thing. Even if I weren't what I am, someone coming along and basically sort of invalidating the tools you've collected through the course of your life and used to make sense of the world around you with, it's scary. A lot of you all are given to, these faith systems, and your whole identities are based inside of these faith systems. Someone comes along and they say things that sort of undermine and invalidate things you built your life upon, and there's no way to not feel some sort of way about it. When I had my experience going to heaven, and then coming face to face with an entity I swore up and down only stupid people believed in, I spent a lot of time trying to talk myself out of the experience. And it wasn't because, I had any sort of hard evidence that my mind was working in a defective manner. It just, I had a lot of meanings I'd collected and symbols I'd sort of either manufactured or collected as well. And these things, they were the tools I knew how to make sense of the world around me with. Then all of a sudden, this whole package just gets dropped in my lap, and I'm like, your whole sense of self, it gets, all your ideas about your identity, they get out of here. And it's a lot. The other day I was asked an amazing question. One of the best questions that I've been asked to date. And I'm going to get into that real soon. Well, actually, no, let's just get into it right now. The question I was asked, and it was last night as a matter of fact, was when people pray to Jesus, when people are praying to Jesus or referring to Jesus, do you think they're praying and or referring to you? That is an excellent question, seeing as I am now the host of the thing that dwelled within Jesus. And the answer to that is absolutely not, for more than one reason. One, I'm not trying to, first of all, it's like I don't self-idealize, or do my best to not self-idealize. Again, this is something that fell in my lap, but even linking myself to Jesus in any way, shape, or form, it feels weird. It feels very uncomfortable to do. So I try my best not to do that in any way, shape, or form. But there's another reason why. I know no one is thinking of me when they are talking about Jesus or God or any of those other things. And Jesus and God are not the same thing. Jesus was host to an entity that was an extension of God, not God in itself. Jesus was not reality. All he did was, by virtue or by proxy of the entity he was hosting, direct people's attention towards reality, right? But it really boils down to this very simple concept, right? You see, what most people refer to as God and what most people refer to as Jesus. And when they're talking about in his name, in his blood, and all this other stuff, they're not actually worshiping God. They're not actually referring to Jesus or God. They're referring to hope. Most people pray to hope. When they ask for help for Jesus, they're not asking for Jesus. They don't even consider Jesus. Jesus for most people is nothing more than a mascot, a trinket that serves to sort of represent the faith system that they define themselves by. Again, religion is a sport humans play for authority over who and what they perceive to be God. All right? Just saw your post, Brother Nate. I appreciate it if you're watching, or your inbox. But here's the deal. When people pray to God, they're not praying to God, they're praying to hope. When people pray to Jesus, they're not praying to Jesus, they're praying to hope. Okay? And here's what I need you to understand. Okay, so I just want to read a couple of definitions to you. Again, what I want you to understand is that what makes humans corrupt is this sort of trifecta, this gateway, this trinity of principles they open and they sort of nurture that allows corruption into the soul. So again, it's narcissism, aggression, and competition. The more you engage in narcissism is the more competitive and aggressive you get. The more you engage in competitiveness is the more narcissistic and aggressive you get. And the more aggressive you get is the more narcissistic and competitive you get. Okay? Narcissism is at the root of everything. Narcissism is at the root of corruption. All right? So when I was telling you before about, humans praying to hope, we have to understand what hope is. So there's do you know what anthropocentrism is? I'm going to explain it to you. I'm just going to read the definition from Google. Anthropocentrism is the attribution of human characteristics or behavior to a god, animal, or object, or idea. Okay? So again, anthropomorphism is the attribution of human characteristics or behavior to a god, animal, object, or idea. Okay? What is anthropocentrism? Okay? So that was anthropomorphism. What's anthropocentrism? Anthropocentrism is regarding mankind as the central or most important element of existence, especially as opposed to God or animals. Both anthropocentrism and anthropomorphism are rooted in narcissism, the projection of the inner story and or identity onto phenomena or effects, including and up to reality itself. So what most people think they are worshiping, in God is nothing more than hope. Anthropomorphized hope. And you know this because you can actually swap out God, the word God, in any prayer that most people use, replace it with the word hope, and it would flow seamlessly. Dear Hope, we thank you for our blessings. Please continue to watch over us, Hope. Guide us through our trials and tribulations, Hope. And I could go into, I don't know how the preachers and whatnot pray their prayers. But basically, they've anthropomorphized hope, and or, by extension of hope, luck. They pray to luck and call it God. They pray to hope and call it Jesus. Funny part about it is, if you were actually do an audit on Christianity, you would see that none of it is in theme with anything Jesus actually taught. And if anybody actually bothered to read the gospel scriptures and try to understand them from outside of how those things imbued them with authority over others, they would quickly realize Jesus would not endorse such an institution. So instead of considering Jesus or Jesus's words, instead of trying to understand God and or understand reality, most people blindly worship hope. They blindly worship hope and call it God. No one can hope when it comes to me. No one can hope when it comes to truth. No one can hope. Hope is irrelevant in reality. There's no need to hope. And granted, even I myself, I'm guilty of hoping a lot of times that things will come to pass the way that they will. But things will come to pass favorably for me. Right? I hope for such things. But I don't pray to hope. I don't worship hope. It doesn't mean I don't experience hope, but I don't idealize hope any more than I idealize myself. You're not praying to God, you're praying to hope. Ironically, you get mad at people who speak on behalf of truth and reality, because truth and reality, why? They invalidate hope, don't they? You'd much rather close your eyes and hope for the best than you would open your eyes and face reality and adapt to how things are, even when or if they're not ideal. Letting go of hope, letting go of the worship of hope is hard, man. You know? It's so funny because the other day I put up this post, and this is something I wanted to talk about for a while. People have a bad habit, especially in society, of trying to pay you in hope. Right? All the slaves who gave their lives to plantations and parasites posing as masters and overseers. What were they paid in? What were they paid with? They were paid with hope for a better life in the afterlife. They were paid in hope. They worshipped hope. Hope was all they had. And when you're in a country where you're outnumbered, God during that time could have been at least 10 to 1. When you're outnumbered 10 to 1 and your oppressors have the means to unilaterally inflict punishment onto you and violence onto you, in such situations, it's understandable to look to hope. When someone has a knife to your baby's throat, or whips the flesh off of their back and fractures your psyche by watching your most loved people be brutalized and terrorized in front of you by the most corrupt life forms you could possibly think of. All you have is hope. And you can cling to hope, but don't anthropomorphize it and turn it into an entity or turn it into a false idol to worship. That's one of the most disheartening things about black people in Christianity to me. It derives from, and their affinity for it and their grounding within it. It derives from trauma and being brutalized and institutionalized and raped as a culture, as a people, at both the individual and group levels. The only thing many oppressed people in the world have to cling to is hope, which is what makes what I do exponentially harder, in that I'm necessarily forced to invalidate people's hope. And that's something I grapple with often. If it were up to me, and every genuinely good person could have their hopes rewarded, especially those who gave their lives to being or just making a good impact on the world around them, being good people, if I could somehow make myself wrong so that they could receive their rewards for being good, I would. Unfortunately, this isn't about my inner sense of justice. This isn't about my pride. This is reality, folks. You can't worship hope, man. Hope takes on many forms. Sometimes it's in the words of a politician. Sometimes it's in empty promises of a lover. And if you're given to belief, if you're given to making agreements with yourself, then you're going to have a tendency to lean towards whatever gives you hope. And unfortunately, those who are the first to dispense hope are usually the first to take advantage of those who are in desperate need of it. Again, most people's relationship with God is not a relationship with God. Their relationship with Jesus is not a relationship with Jesus. Their relationship is founded on and based in hope. They do all these little rituals, these little personal sacrifices to this deity. They never had the wherewithal to identify from beyond their experience. You see, being an avatar, I'm not forced to process information and reality through idealism. I can just see the mechanism behind things. So that means I don't have to deal in belief. I don't have to deal in knowledge systems. I skip past all processes related to sort of factoring reality through this outlook of idealism, this system, this way, this mode of making sense of the world around me. I bypass that that process, pardon me. So I'm not necessarily required to rely on hope, because I can see how things are in reality without having that sort of shroud over my outlook. I don't have to process through a perceptive outlook. I simply see things for what and how they are. But It goes back to the point of many people really needing to make sense of life by clinging to hope. It's why so many people are adamantly against me. I'm looking up and down my timeline, and I see all these people worshiping Jesus and saying all this other stuff. Oh, in his name I pray, and all this other shit. It's wild. Like, they're literally trying to go toe to toe with the very entity they are, well, they think they're worshiping. And they're not doing it out of confidence. They're not doing it out of a deep understanding for what they're doing or whatever. They're doing it based on trends and their desire to cling to hope. You see, they've invested a lot of time into becoming who they are, and these faith systems that give them a sense of purpose and grounding are central to who they think they are. And when you start saying things that invalidate entire portions of people's worldview and personality, they're going to feel some sort of way about it. I know this. Again, that was my first experience coming face to face with God. Donald King, the social actor, had to get his shit stuffed. I had to get broken all the way down. My pride wouldn't let me consider the fact that things that couldn't be measured with human instruments were real. God came along and broke my identity all the way down. And it's a painful process. Having who, what, and how you are invalidated by God itself is having your pride destroyed by the source of all things. It hurts. So y'all entering your states of cognitive dissonance dealing with little old me, I get it. I got God smacked up. God took me clean out. Dragged me through these streets. Showed me the limitations of Donald King and how I was nothing like this character I'd made myself out to be. I had to learn that shit firsthand from God itself. And God hits way harder than men. Y'all are lucky, man. I got kitten mittens on when I'm dealing with y'all because I got no such treatment. I got brutalized, man. I'm sitting here and trying to coax you guys into awareness for how reality is, and God didn't pull any punches with me. He was like, in your face. You take that. Are you a genius now, Donald? You don't know me. You don't know what I am. I define you. Word? Well, take this. And that. And I'm sitting here like, help. Oh, God. Stop. I quit. Oh, man. I got brutalized, man. But in doing that, it made me empathetic to a lot of what you all are going through in coming face to face with something that, if not invalidates, then most certainly challenges and threatens to undermine your identity and your outlook and worldview. I get the chest thumping, I get the bravado. I did it too. You're not unique in that way. Wanting to humble me and show me that I'm not as great as I think I am. Even wanting to knuckle up against me. I had one motherfucker say to me literally, I can't wait to see you so I can put hands on you. He said he's going to put hands on me. It's a bad move. Some things hit in ways that don't heal, and you might be able to beat the man down, but the entity that the man is housing, for whom you would be damaging its house. Pulls no punches. It is going to decimate you. And this is a really fucked up thing. And this is something that even my own inner sense of justice doesn't quite gel with a lot of times, but I have to make peace with it. If you strike out at reality, you don't get to say how hard it hits you back. You know, humanity, in terms of intellect, we have the intelligence level of like a second grader, tops. And we're talking about the top of the species. We're like second graders. Imagine a second grader coming over to you and hitting you and scratching you and biting you because it was mad. Right? If you bring aggression to reality, any type of aggression, even little attempts to be subversive, especially to me, while I'm trying to help people, and I'm not saying me, Donald King, I'm saying the avatar perspective performing through me, it pulls no punches. It's like watching, again, a little kid come and scratch and bite, and then, like, something as big as, like, I don't know, what's a massive human being? Like, a skilled massive human being, like Cain Velasquez or Brock Lesnar, just brutalize kid. And I'm like, that's not cool. But, you know, reality would like, and the way that it works is this. Reality is like, I get that they're just trying to work their anger and frustrations out. I get that they're trying to work their anger and frustrations out, but you see, with them aggressing against you, this little kid is diseased. This little kid has things in you that if they cut your skin, if they break your skin, with this infection that they've got in them, then they infect you, and everything that's depending on you to survive, it goes down the drain too. So it's like, even though this entity doesn't understand what it's doing, the fact that it's so dangerous and what it carries within it is so dangerous, you have to scorch the earth with it. And I'm sitting here in my tenure as Avatar, like, I know there has to be a way to try to heal the kid. There has to be an antidote for this shit. Like, before we just scorch the earth, please give me an opportunity to try and reach the kid. And I know that I probably trailed off in that little analogy there, but that's very much what it's like. You guys are infected with corruption. Reality can't get infected with corruption, so the avatar perspective can't get infected with corruption either. So anything that you do to aggress against it is necessarily an attempt to kill it. And if you're attempting to kill a function of reality, it's like someone trying to kill your child. Reality is going to respond to you with, it's going to scorch the earth with you. Everything you do to be subversive, everything you do to be contrarian, everything you do to be a fucking asshole to me because you don't like what I'm saying, the entity performing through me, and what it works on behalf of, it's, for lack of a better expression, it's sirer, it's father. It's like, oh, they're gonna bring that energy to me? Obliteration. Because the only thing that would make you want to bring that type of energy to me or it is if you're hosting corruption. Corruption is a disease. Reality is in the process of tracking down, hunting, isolating, and exterminating that disease with extreme prejudice. So if you take it upon yourself to be an active agent for this thing, you invite reality, the system, to just brutalize you. No punches pulled. None. If it has to take a flamethrower to you, it doesn't matter that you're a sick little kid. It's like, flame on. It will burn you till you're less than ash. Which is why I try so hard to get you to stop being these rude, aggressive, dismissive little pricks. I see what's in store for everybody who aggresses against this thing performing through me. It's no joke. It hates what's in you, and it will destroy you in order to destroy what's in you. With extreme prejudice. That's the way it is. I've been eating all sorts of lemon sorbet lately, and as such I've gotten acne again. I get acne. I'm 45. 45. It's a lot of years, man. It's a lot of years. But again, I'm not trying to sell you guys on any of this stuff. The best, I'm not trying to get you to believe me. I certainly don't want you to believe me. I want you to think and be honest. The very best part about being in sync with reality is that the truth is evident. You see, when you're sort of lost in idealism, everything seems subjective. Everything seems skewed and or skewable by and according to the individual experience. In reality, no such provision exists. Things do not change based on your experience of them. Go out into the sunlight. If you're dark, it's just a day. If you got melanin, it's just a day. If you don't have dark, rich melanin pigment in your skin, and you burn and you tan, then your experience is going to be very different than a person who does have melanin in their skin and who is thus nourished and fed by the sun. It's going to be a very different experience, but your experience does not change sunlight. It doesn't change what sunlight is or how sunlight functions. This exists and functions mutually independent of your experience. And in idealism, the belief is that the experience dictates reality and effects and systems within reality. Again, this is the problem with being a parasitic life form and or processing information by way of idealism. You believe a reality emerges from you. And reality, which existed long before you, it was here first. It will be here last. It's not going anywhere. You are. It's not going to change. You may change pieces of it for a short period of time, but they'll ultimately revert to what they were before you, and it will sustain, and you will be destroyed, and everything you did to create imbalance within reality will get charged back to your spirit, and you will spend however long it takes divulging your potential and whatever potential you're able to manufacture from the other realm back to the system to offset the imbalances you caused and contributed to. I don't know how I'm doing in this podcast. I got anybody out there in the audience tonight? Anybody out there? Anybody watching? Probably not. Y'all are, I know how people get when they hear things like I'm saying. It's scary. It's easy to bury your head in the sand and pretend like the big bad scary thing isn't there. It's cowardice, though. Cowardice is retreating from reality and or trying to brutalize reality towards making it fit with and conform to your inner story. But it's just a fundamental fear of facing reality. Yeah, man. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. So yeah, it's wild. Wild, wild, wild. But back to the point of the video. Y'all have anthropomorphized hope, turned it into a false god, worship it, and refer to it as God, Jesus, Allah, Krishna, whatever. You pray to hope. When hope pans out for you, you're like, oh, I've been blessed by God. When you get what you want. When hope doesn't pan out for you, you kind of like, oh, God is teaching me a lesson. Because you don't want to let go of hope. You don't want to say hope let you down. Do you? You don't want to let go of hope. So even when hope doesn't pay off, you still get to cling to it. Again, a lot of you all cling to hope because it's all you had through a lot of really rough years. Society is brutal. Society is much more brutal than nature. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like in nature, you can get attacked by an animal and get killed. You can die of hypothermia. You can die of heat stroke. But it's a pretty, like, whatever doesn't kill you in nature makes you stronger. In society, it's this slow, gradual process of breaking you all the way down, stripping all the life force away from you, and leaving you with nothing but hope. Society is brutal. Who hurts you more? A lion that chases you down and mauls you for a little bit, but you get away from? Or a thing that makes you trade your physical body and attributes away for resources to survive on for 70 or 80 years? Think about the temporary pain of getting like mauled by a bear and either dying or living, but that it's still temporary. Like let's say you get away from the bear and the bear, the wounds heal over the course of, let's say 2-3 months, right? 2-3 months of, let's say it'd only be like around maybe 2 or 3 weeks of excruciating pain. But after that, let's say there's some lingering pain for like 2-3 months. Now, compare that to, in society, having to go hungry for years and having to be poisoned for years by foods that are given to you by assholes at the top of society, drunk off the idea of their own power. Food additives, breaking you down, making you walk with degenerated joints and shit like that. Like, if you just compare pain, society is way more brutal than nature. Way more brutal. It's bad. It's terrible. And the only thing it pays you with is hope. You know why there's a such thing as celebrity and why there's a such thing as wealth? Because in the end, they give the average Joe hope. I can make it if I just try. And when they worship hope, they inadvertently end up worshiping society, which is both religions, God and devil, but still. You get paid in hope. It's brutal. You get to hurt and starve and get cut up, bruised, and burned in factories and kitchens, and you have to carry all this stress, all this worry for tomorrow, all this aggression and animus that just eats away at your heart and your health. You do that for 60, 70, 80 years. all for little breaks and the hope that all that work will one day keep you comfortable while you transition into the next life. It's brutal. It's brutal. Like, even the assholes at the top of society, they're paid in hope as well. Something you need to understand about humans in general. You're a slave species. It doesn't matter if you're lording it over other humans. The beings that basically put you and or allow you to remain in the position that you're in right now, once you are no longer needed, you're dispensable. You're gone. That even applies to extraterrestrials. You're a slave class, created by slave classes. There was the most recent episode of Rick and Morty, and it was just it was pretty it's pretty awesome, actually. I'm gonna see if I can Google it real quick. Rick and Morty, season 5, episode 2. And it was Mortyplicity. Is that what the name of it was? Mortyplicity. I think that's what it was. But yeah, so it actually hits the framing of religion quite well, or the religion's God. If humans were created in religions in the image of religion's God, then they would be imbued with all the same attributes as that God. Right? So if they wanted to study God, they would in fact do well to study themselves, and objectively. And if they want to study themselves, then they would do well to study bacteria and viruses and parasites and things of this nature. But when you are created in the image of a creator, you are necessarily endowed with the proclivity to create and to try and create in your own image. Which is why humans are trying to create AI in the same way that their creator made them. They're trying to transfer this consciousness, this function of corruption, into something that exists and functions mutually independent of them. Now, what they want, ironically, is to create a slave class, something that will work for their benefit, but also be controllable, exploitable, so that they can have a symbiotic, non-mutual relationship with it, wherein they benefit at its expense. The pursuit of AI is the pursuit of a digital slave. If not a digital slave, then a controllable mechanical slave they can use to supplement and offset their own natural deficits and deficiencies. Religion's God created you in its image. A pathogen landed on the body of this organism that we call planet Earth. It took a couple of different organisms that it referred to as dust, transmuted them and spliced them together into a slave class of organism, inserted some of its RNA coding into them, and gave them marching orders. Be fruitful, become many, fill the earth and subdue it. The entire time, the entire history, the human species has been trying to overcome the adversities that were literally genetically engineered into them by the thing that wanted a slave class to do its labor. So humanity thinks it's been them versus nature, not them versus the deficits that were literally woven into them to keep them subordinate weak and exploitable. The only thing that they had to worship, the only thing they had to cling to through all of their hurt and dismay was hope. Hope that it got better, and then hope got replaced with trauma, the fear of disempowerment when things were slightly better than they were before. Brutal, ain't it? And all of this, again, traces back to structural building blocks belonging to a parasitic twin universe that's about to be nullified, and any aggressor cell, extraterrestrial, human or other, that remains in an aggressor state, why they will be cut away from existence and have the corruption that's in them, that's manifesting through their potential and or their principal expressions, purged from them violently and in the most excruciating manner possible. This is not a fucking game. This is happening. You're on board or you're not. You're blocking out reality and cocooning yourself in your inner story, where you're stepping up to facing reality and dealing with shit in real time. By the way, I don't know if anybody is trying to comment. I see I have some notifications over there, but sometimes Facebook likes to play. Make sure that it's like whoever is pulling strings behind the curtain. They like to make sure that my visibility, the ability to reach people, is kept low. Unfortunately, to their own demise. This is bad what's coming to them, man. So if you all are commenting and I'm not responding to you, then it happens from time to time. I'll get you on the back end, but yeah, this is the way it goes. My life at this point is literally supposed to be dedicated to explaining principles of natural organization to you. Everything that I have to do that takes me away from focusing directly on my work gets charged back to the species and those who prevented me from being heard the most. Anybody who's an obstacle, anybody who doesn't clear the path, anybody who's not doing everything in their power to make sure that this message spreads throughout and permeates throughout the species, it gets charged back to you with unimaginable interest, not by Donald King, by the entity he's hosting. This is not a game. You see, what you don't understand is, even though humanity is a corrupt species, they are still considerably part of God's body. They are still considerably part of reality's body. And if you do things to prevent reality from saving portions of itself from corruption, you're an active agent of corruption, and choosing corruption over reality is an act of aggression against reality itself at the most fundamental level. Whatever you do to block this, whatever you do to not clear the path, it gets charged back to you with unimaginable interest. It is in your best interest to stow your funky little attitude. Do what you can to assist towards clearing the path for me to focus. If you let your bad attitude and your pride drag you into being a needless obstacle, then you will face the consequence for that. And I guarantee you, you're well lit and deep enough, your pockets aren't deep enough to pay the cost. Like, if you couldn't pay, like, if you were the people at the top of society who've literally been sort of blocking the path the entire time, and the intelligence agents and stuff like that, they don't have pockets deep enough to I mean, like, my suggestion would be for anybody who's watching this, who's in one of these elite circles and stuff like that, the game is way bigger than what you were informed of, and you've only gotten yourself in trouble at this point. It is in your absolute best interest to stand down and work to clear the path and do everything that you can to reverse the impacts, because I understand that you operated from a space of ignorance. You had human knowledge. Human knowledge systems are not reality based. They're based on idealism. Ideas don't stack up to reality. I get you were doing what you thought you needed to do. I get that. You were fed a bunch of lines of bullshit. People were like, yo, we got to do this to protect us and ours and all this other stuff. I get it. You were misinformed. You were misinformed. It's that simple. Not only were you misinformed, you were shown this much of a puzzle that's as big as the planet. You took action based on a piece of puzzle this big, and the reason why is because you saw what they were doing be successful against other groups of humans. You're up against metas now. Your little bullets, your little bombs, your little mixed martial arts, they're only good against flesh. All of your force, all of your bravado, it's only good against flesh. You don't experience real hurt until you're out of the flesh. And you're in for a world of fucking hurt. You really need to step forward. Like, we need to be in discussions and shit like that, like, immediately. Again, I'm not playing. I shoot these podcasts so you can see my frame of mind. I shoot this so that you can see me go through the word fumbles. You can see me use anecdotal experiences. You can see me, go through I'm showing you that I have a healthy mind, that this is not something that's happening exclusively from within my identity or from within my inner story. I'm showing you, I'm demonstrating all this to you to show you what you're up against. And the only thing I'm doing is being a mouthpiece. I'm not even like coming for you like that. Once this thing is out of this body, and or once this body expires, I don't even know how to describe to you how bad shit is going to get for you. It's that bad. I can't apply any sort of frame to show, like, even when I try to scale it, everything that I say is just so weak in comparison to how bad it actually is. I don't know, but I'm gonna say this right now. You really need to get with me ASAP. This shit is gonna get bad, man. Yo, anyway, where are we at right here? Guys, you know what it is. I'm Donald King. I shoot these on Mondays and Wednesdays, Facebook Live. You can check me out on Instagram. I post content every couple of days or so. But, I'm Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. Also, I fly all of these videos over to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to archive these. One of my buddies asked me, why don't you do shorter videos? I do shorter videos on Instagram. Like, I try to do little bullet point videos with principles. I'm doing a lot of this for archival reasons. I don't know how long I'm going to be in this body, because again, I'm not in charge of the show. If the Avatar perspective is just like, we're done, that's it. And I know, like, just based on what I'm able to see through the Avatar perspective, y'all are pissing reality off more and more as the seconds pass. So I don't know how long I'm going to be in this. So yeah, I mean, I'm archiving as much stuff as I can, and then I don't know how long you have after I'm out of this body before the seal is made and everything that's corrupt gets cut away. I don't know how long that process takes, because how shit scales in terms of time. Time in reality is very different from how time is experienced through perception. So, But also, I post content to Medium, again, for archiving's sake. And if you guys get any sort of appreciation out of what I do and you want to help clear the path, you can always join the Patreon family. Again, I'm Avatar Cycle XIII. It's Avatar Cycle 13. And you can also hit me up on Cash App. You can Salt Bay your boy with a little bit of love for the daily sermon or whatnot. Proceeds go to building this up to a larger platform and sort of clearing the path as best I can to focus on my work. So, yeah. For those of you all who tuned in, I appreciate you. And I thank you for being brave. Because I know this shit is scary. I know it was scary to me when it first fell in my lap, so I can only imagine how scary it must be to you. And you know, well, part of being brave is admitting when you're scared. At any rate, we'll just finish up with this thing. This final point. Again, what most people worship in place of God is actually hope. I don't know if there's a God of hope. Is there a God of hope? The God of hope in Greek is Elpis. The God of hope in Greek mythology is Elpis. Call it whatever you want to, but that's who you're actually worshiping, right? You're not worshiping Yahweh, you're not worshiping Jesus, you're worshiping Elpis. And just calling it God or Jesus. Anywho, go ahead and sign off here. Yeah, and what I was saying about the Rick and Morty thing earlier, Rick and Morty, they just, that episode, the last episode, they had created multiple copies of themselves and placed it at different locations inside the United States or whatever. And what happened was Rick had actually created Ricks so well. So these copies, these clones, they were so good at being Rick that they went ahead and they had the same ideas as Rick, and they went and created other copies and clones, and it just became this progression. That's the way parasitism works at a fundamental level. Like, if you create in your master's image, then you will ultimately become your master, and whatever you create will become you. And it was very well illustrated in that show. But again, stop worshiping hope, guys. I know shit is scary, but face it head on. Be a G. Face reality. I know hope is all you had to carry you through a lot of lean times. But don't turn it into a false god, and most certainly don't worship it as God, and simply call it God or Jesus instead. Time to recognize this single reality, folks. It's your man. I'm out.